Authorities are treating the case as a domestic homicide. Stephen Bowen is currently behind bars, accused of a chilling act, murdering his wife, the local vice mayor, and then remaining in the residence overnight as she lay dead. He is being held without the possibility of bail at the Broward County Detention Facility. Confusion gripped the neighborhood as law enforcement descended upon an apartment complex in Plantation, roughly 12 miles from the crime scene. Eyewitnesses recorded the moment tactical units apprehended the victim's husband. Residents described hearing a thunderous explosion, initially fearing it was heavy gunfire. The perimeter was flooded with specialized units and tactical vehicles, officers moving with weapons drawn. Stephen and Nancy's marriage had spanned several years, characterized publicly by snapshots of domestic bliss. To those who knew her, like her grieving brother, she was a constant source of joy and support. Commissioner Joshua Simmons recalled their final conversation just days prior, a routine meeting that would unexpectedly become their last. His words painted a portrait of a woman whose impact far exceeded the headlines. She was a fixture of the community, often seen addressing the citizens of Coral Springs with poise. Introducing herself as Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen, she frequently honored her parents, Lynn and Marley, during public appearances. She credited her leadership style to the fundamental principles they had instilled in her and her siblings since childhood. This is the tragic chronicle of Nancy Metayer Bowen. At 38, she had secured her place in history as the first Black and Haitian-American woman on the Coral Springs Commission. On the morning of April 1st, 2026, just hours before a career-defining moment, her life was extinguished inside her own home. A routine welfare check on Wednesday morning led police to a grim discovery. Her 40-year-old husband, Stephen Bowen, was swiftly detained. To understand the gravity of this crime, one must look past her political title to the woman herself. A daughter of Haitian immigrants, Metayer Bowen was a first-generation American who built a life in South Florida. Her academic trajectory took her from Florida A&M to a master's program at Johns Hopkins. This rigorous scientific background served as the bedrock for her eventual political ascent. Her professional rise was meteoric. Before reaching 30, she had already navigated the halls of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and served under Senator Bill Nelson. Eventually, she secured a position within the Obama White House, moving with ease through the nation's most elite corridors of power. Returning to her roots, she focused on grassroots initiatives, from disaster relief for Haiti to local environmental youth programs. In 2017, she sought a seat on the Soil and Water Conservation District, a technical, unglamorous role that most voters rarely consider. She secured that seat, and by 2020, she was ready to make history. She campaigned for the Coral Springs City Commission, representing a population of 134,000. Her victory broke a historic glass ceiling, as no Black or Haitian American woman had ever served in that capacity. By 2024, her influence was so absolute that she ran for re-election without a single challenger. She sat on 10 different community boards and pioneered the city's transition toward environmental sustainability, spearheading the creation of a dedicated department for green initiatives. Her advocacy extended to global environmental networks and the fight for reproductive health care. She was a politician of substance, obsessed with the fine print of water management and conservation, the technicalities that govern daily life, but rarely garner public attention. In the final days of March 2026, she was seen hosting a festive Easter event for local children. Her political reach was national. During the 2024 presidential cycle, she had mobilized the Caribbean diaspora as a key director for the Kamala Harris campaign. She held high-ranking roles in voter engagement and had recently accepted a position managing a federal climate resilience hub in Miami-Dade. Her motivation was simple. She believed that government should reflect the lived reality of the people it served. For her, leadership was synonymous with transparency and public service rather than political gamesmanship. She remained fiercely committed to ecological protection, viewing it as a fundamental duty to the community. Having witnessed the tangible effects of climate change in Florida, she sought systemic solutions to protect homes and families. Her mission was to ensure that every segment of the community had a voice and a path toward a sustainable future. Behind closed doors, she was preparing for her greatest challenge yet. She had confided in allies that she was ready to move beyond local government. An official announcement for a seat in Congress was scheduled for April 2, 2026. That date would never arrive. Prosecutors suggest that Stephen Bowen, the man who stood by her throughout her meteoric rise, was the catalyst for her end. The investigation now centers on a possible motive, a deep-seated resentment that remained hidden from the public eye. Stephen Bowen, a 40-year-old of Jamaican heritage, maintained a respectable public image as the executive of a faith-based nonprofit. Married for 2 years, the couple appeared to be a powerhouse unit, perfectly aligned in their commitment to community service. Their social calendar was full of high-profile events where they were often seen laughing and dancing. To any observer, they were the picture of a successful, modern partnership. On their second anniversary, Nancy shared a sentimental tribute featuring a photograph taken at City Hall. Her words spoke of 3 years of shared dreams and unconditional support, marking the very building where her professional legacy was being forged. She was openly proud of their union, leaving colleagues stunned by the subsequent violence. Before the tragedy, Stephen was known only as the administrator of a modest organization, a stark contrast to his wife's escalating profile. Nancy was a historic figure, a rising star frequently seen alongside national leaders and senators. Her career was on an explosive upward trajectory, with a congressional bid poised to elevate her to the national stage. Those within her inner circle suggest a darker reality. They allege that Stephen struggled to exist in his wife's shadow, harboring a toxic resentment toward her success and a paranoid fear that her advancement would eventually lead her away from him. Experts note that high-achieving women often mask domestic turmoil to protect their professional standing. While a formal motive remains unconfirmed, the contrast between Nancy's public vibrancy and her private danger is becoming increasingly clear. Political allies like Nikki Fried and Congressman Jared Moskowitz recalled recent warm interactions with her. They described a dedicated public servant who was energized and ready to take her fight for the community to the federal level. Colleagues noted her relentless drive to help others, viewing a seat in Congress as the ultimate platform for service. Yet, beneath her professional drive, Nancy was enduring a period of profound personal mourning. The family had recently been shattered by the suicide of her younger brother, Donovan, in December. A survivor of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas massacre, his struggles with mental health were a direct legacy of that collective trauma. The community now grapples with a loss of immeasurable proportions. Aerial footage shows a quiet residential enclave cordoned off by police taped the site where investigators discovered the lifeless body of the woman who had become the pride of Coral Springs. Nikki Fried, head of Florida's Democratic Party, mourned a woman who fought tirelessly for the democratic ideal. For her family, a profound darkness has replaced a life once defined by brilliance. Relatives described a sister and daughter whose laughter once resonated through their private lives. Her influence remains etched in both legislation and the many lives she quietly transformed. She was fueled by a relentless optimism and a profound calling to serve her neighbors. Those who knew her recall a woman who arrived at every community, struggle with unwavering conviction. Known for her perpetual smile, she remained a steadfast role model despite enduring personal tragedies. Her dedication to environmental protection and healthcare access never wavered, even under the weight of grief. In Coral Springs, she was the meticulous architect of local water and conservation policies. Now, 40-year-old Stephen Bowen stands before a judge, accused of cold-blooded murder and evidence tampering. A welfare check revealed a gruesome scene. The vice mayor's body, hidden beneath blankets and plastic, lay in the master suite. Her absence from the city meeting had already triggered silent alarms. Colleagues initially dismissed her silence as a byproduct of a demanding schedule. Meanwhile, investigators tracked Bowen to a nearby home, where he allegedly delivered a chilling confession to a relative. Bowen reportedly admitted to firing 3 shotgun rounds into his wife before calmly sleeping in the rooms below. When pressed for a reason, he simply claimed he could no longer endure it. Reporters confirmed that the suspect's own uncle contacted authorities after hearing the grim admission. The motive offered for the execution-style killing was a chillingly mundane breaking point. Stephen Bowen, aged 40, appeared in a Broward County courtroom without the possibility of bond. He stands charged with premeditated homicide, a stark contrast to the legacy of his wife. The court established probable cause after reviewing deceptive text messages Bowen sent to the commission manager. He had feigned ignorance, questioning his wife's whereabouts while her body lay cold. A relative's tip led investigators directly into the vice mayor's residence. Inside the master bedroom, they discovered the tragic evidence of a domestic life that had turned lethally violent. On the morning of April 1st, 2026, a wellness check was initiated at the 800 block of Northwest 127th Avenue. Officers discovered the deceased shortly after 10. Authorities have classified the homicide as a domestic violence event with no other suspects at large. Stephen Bowen remains in custody, and officials assure the public there is no lingering threat. The police department extended gratitude to their partners in Plantation and Fort Lauderdale for their assistance. Further updates regarding the criminal proceedings will be disseminated through official city channels. With the investigation still unfolding, law enforcement remains tight-lipped regarding specific forensic details. Commissioner Josh Simmons stepped to the microphone to address a community struggling to process the horror. A visibly shaken Simmons addressed the press, describing his fallen colleague as a true comrade in the political trenches. He spoke for a commission that had lost more than a partner. He remembered a woman with a resilient heart who prioritized human connection over political vitriol. She was a constant presence at events, determined to bridge the gap with the people. Simmons, often the fiery protector of the group, spoke of his fierce loyalty to her. The weight of her absence is now a heavy burden on his soul. His words reflected a spirit that was utterly crushed by the sudden violence. We are simply ordinary, citizens forced to navigate the unthinkable when we return to our private lives. Despite the heartbreak, the work of the people continues, even as the city commission faces an empty chair. While time may eventually dull the edges of this tragedy, the impact on City Hall is permanent. The loss of Nancy Metayer is a wound that will take years to heal. Simmons issued a stern warning to the media, pleading for dignity and space. He urged them to follow official protocols rather than hounding grieving staff for sensational details. He expressed confidence that the city would find its way through the darkness by leaning on its collective strength. In a final, personal tribute, he spoke directly to the memory of the woman he loved. He reflected on their bond, seeing her as an older sister and recalling their last meeting just days prior. There was no indication then that it would be their final goodbye. He concluded by urging the public to cherish their families and hold them close. His prayers are with a family now forced to endure a second, unimaginable catastrophe. City manager Katherine then took the stage to offer her perspective. She described the day as a dark stain on the history of Coral Springs. No words could truly measure the agony radiating through the community following such a senseless act. The depth of the family's grief is incomprehensible for a woman who prioritized her kin. Nancy was more than a public servant. She was the radiant center of every room. She provided a steadying hand in times of crisis, and now the city must provide support for its traumatized staff. Behavioral health resources have been mobilized for their healing. The city manager called for a unified front of mourning, emphasizing their shared identity as one family. Even in the shadow of this tragedy, the city vows to carry her light. In a final note of solidarity, she thanked the community and pledged that they would support one another. Nancy Metayer Bowen was a beacon of hope, a daughter of immigrants who shattered glass ceilings to become a historic voice for her community. She was a leader, a scientist, and a warrior for the environment. But while she was fighting for a collective future, a silent, suffocating darkness was closing in within the one place she should have felt safest, her own home. Her tragedy is a haunting reminder that domestic violence does not discriminate. It doesn't care about your titles, your master's degree, or how many lives you've touched. It often hides behind the most radiant smiles and the most perfect public images. In Nancy's case, the very success she earned became a target for toxic resentment, proving that high-achieving women often carry the heaviest, most invisible burdens. We must learn to look past the polished exterior. We must realize that the strong people in our lives are often fighting the loneliest battles. Let Nancy's story be more than a headline. Let it be a catalyst for courage. Honor her legacy by breaking the silence. Watch for the shadows, check on your friends, and never assume someone is fine just because they are successful. We owe it to Nancy to ensure that a partner's love never again becomes a death sentence.